Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Saturday afternoon. Some massive news for the Texas Longhorn fans as Coach Sark signing an extension, staying with this Texas Longhorns program. This is kind of coming out of some buzz that the NFL was looking at Coach Sark. Look, there's going to be people on Twitter. There's going to be people on the message boards that are saying this ain't that big of a deal. And technically, they might be right? I believe he's signing a 1-year extension, getting a little bit of a salary bump, of which he deserves every single penny. Why this is a big deal, or at least why I view it as a big deal, is that, hey, Coach Sark's telling us that there's no place he'd rather be than Austin, Texas, running this Texas Longhorns program. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to find head coaches in the college football landscape, especially with how much it has changed. It's hard to find coaches that you can hitch your wagon to for 10, 15 years. From what we're looking at right now, in terms of where this Texas program is going, it looks like Coach Sark is one of those guys. And it's a short list. It's a short list. You look at Kirby Smart at Georgia. You look at Nick Saban at Alabama. You look at Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. Outside of those names, maybe Dan Lanning at Oregon, but it's still early on in that process. There ain't many names that are in that standing. And it's really hard to argue to me that Coach Sark isn't going there with this Texas Longhorns program. Now, I want to take this opportunity to talk about where Texas is at as a football program, talk about the things that Coach Sark has done exceptionally well. And that, if you were to ask me, you could buy stock in any college football program across the country for the next 5 to 10 years, and I get Texas' stock is pretty dang high right now. I'd probably buy Texas, that or Oregon. Because you look at some of these programs that are adapting to the new landscape of college football, that are building rosters and programs the right way. There is not many programs that are doing it better than what Coach Sark is doing with Texas. Now, I want to get into a few things that I think have worked for Coach Sark in a big time way, kind of do a 5-year forecast in terms of where Texas is going before we get into it. As always, to the Texas fans, really fun talking about this football team in 2024. The amount of support y'all continue to show the fellas over the last couple of weeks and months means the absolute world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's just get into the foundation of what's working so well with Texas. Look, if you've watched college football for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you know where it starts in terms of if you want to get your foot in the door at competing at the highest level, recruiting, roster building, as we might call it, because that transfer portal is becoming a player. It is by far the most important aspect. You look at Coach Sark, you look at what they're doing on the recruiting trail, just signed the number one class in the country in 2025. 2024 was top 5. In 2023 was top 3. Talent acquisition has been exceptional under Coach Sark. They've also supplemented it extremely well in the transfer portal. We've talked about this a little bit. Look, Texas, they can't use the transfer portal that much because, quite frankly, just not that many players in the transfer portal that are making this Texas team that much better, and they recruit so well out of high school. There's just not many holes that they need to fill in the portal. But when they do go to the portal, you talk about some of the names that they hit on. I mean, Andrew Makuba. I don't know if there was a more impactful transfer portal addition that you saw in the country. Talk about guys like Trey Moore. Talk about guys like Matthew Golden. What they do on the recruiting trail and how they supplement it in the transfer portal, their recruiting / roster building umbrella, it doesn't get much better. And you look at that Texas team in 2024, there's no doubt in my mind it was a national championship caliber roster. And you start looking at what it's going to look like in 2025, and I get it. They lose a lot of talent to the NFL draft. Make no mistake about it. National championship caliber roster going into 2025. In fact, probably my preseason pick to win it all in 2025 right now in middle of January. Number 2. And you'll see college football fans talk about NIL and like it's a bad thing. Look, in this modern era of college football, that is part of the job as a head coach. Like, you got to be able to fundraise and get funds. And Coach Sark has been one of those coaches that's leaned into it. You show me a program that's having success right now, I'll show you a head coach that knows how to fundraise and get the NIL resources necessary to win at a high level. There are some coaches that haven't leaned into it. They're getting left in the dust. There are a lot of coaches that are leaning into it. Those are the programs that we're seeing ascend. It is part of the job. And Coach Sark clearly has I guess the best way to say it is there's clear alignment in terms of this program, in terms of the boosters, in terms of the coaching staff and players. All the ducks are in a row. That's not easy to do as a head coach for a program like Texas. Coach Sark clearly has it figured out. And then finally, and arguably just as important of a conversation, the quarterback pipeline. I mean, look at the 3 to 4 year runway of what the quarterback position is going to look like for Texas, right? Arch Manning going into 2025. There's a very real chance that he might just be a one and done guy. We'll see. I think he's certainly capable of it, being the first pick in the NFL draft in 2026. Regardless of that, now I know there's a lot of confidence in Trey Owens. I know there's a lot of confidence in KJ Lacey. I know there's a lot of confidence in the 2026 commit Diabell. There's no doubt if Texas needs to go out into the transfer portal and go grab a quarterback, certainly would be able to do it. You look at the quarterback pipeline, which is really important when you're evaluating these programs for the next couple of years. Coach Sark, Texas Longhorns, they're in a damn good spot. You look at some of the other programs in the SEC, Alabama, huge question marks. You look at Georgia, huge question marks. Texas is one of those teams where you ain't got no question marks about what the quarterback play is going to look like, especially under Coach Sark over the next couple of years. Last thing, and a sneaky thing, that when you talk about elite head coaches, what do they all have in common? They know how to hire coaches around them. What Coach Kwiatkowski, what Coach Flood is doing, this coaching staff, this coaching staff that Texas has assembled has been elite, and they've been retaining those coaches as well. And when they've had to go out and hire coaches, they've crushed the hires as well, becoming very, very important in this era of college football. You look at Nick Saban. What made Nick Saban so special at Alabama? Yeah, Nick Saban was a damn good football coach. He surrounded himself, Coach Sark being an example, of some really good coaches as well. I think Kirby Smart's doing a very similar thing. I think Dan Lanning in Oregon's doing a very similar thing. One of the things that I found interesting, go back 12 months ago when Coach Sark signed another extension, was he took care of his assistant coaches. He's making sure when we get some good coaches, we're going to keep them in Texas as long as possible. And when you hire good coaches, it's inevitable that they're going to move on with their career, probably get a head coaching job. Can you replace those coaches? Coach Sark has shown that ability. And you start going down the checklist, man, of where this program is going and the boxes they have checked. Under Coach Sark, there's just not many boxes that, if any, that are left unchecked. And so the biggest news for me coming out of this is Coach Sark wants to be here. He knows he has every resource and thing available for him to go maximize this Texas program. We know what this program can look like maximized, and it's in the process of getting there. Really, really fun time to be a Texas fan. Obviously going to be a program we talk about a lot over the next couple of weeks and months. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.